You can start. Dubey sir, you
Okay,
can start, sir.
okay, okay. So, good morning, friends. It's nice to be back again this Sunday. And our speaker this morning is Ms. Clemice Petter. Uh, I'm sure most of us remember Clemice as she has spoken to this before this group a few times. And I want to extend a very warm welcome to Clemice and also thank her profusely on behalf of the Krishnamurti Study Circle Indore that she agreed and has agreed and is here today to talk about the teachings in daily life. For those of us who are not aware of Clemice's background, I'll briefly introduce Clemice to you. Ms. Clemice Petter, living in India since 2014, was a volunteer at Theosophical Headquarters in Chennai for several years. Deeply interested in Krishnaji's teachings, she left her country, Brazil, and settled in India, where she feels the environment to be conducive to the spiritual quest. As a result of her years of studies and observations, she published a book entitled Pathless Land, in which she shares her insights and impressions. With these words, I once again welcome Clemice and request her to please go ahead with her talk. Clemice, your turn now.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Dubeji, and thank you for your introduction and thank you to all of us, of all of you that came today. And before we start this meeting, I would just like to say something about the meeting itself, which is it is not going to be a talk like somebody talking and trying to convince in the sense like we may have this idea of a talk that somebody comes and then exposes his ideas and things like that. It is rather a sharing of some considerations and some ponderings that I myself have been doing. And it is also not something that is a conclusion in the sense that this is the final thing, because as far as I can understand, there is no such thing as a final understanding. We grow in understanding, and as we become clear, the understanding changes. So it is just a sharing of impressions. So with this being said, and I will talk for some time like we do in this gathering that I have been participating before. And then after some time, we just share with other people also can talk and all that. So the title of today is quite important because Krishnamurti and the daily life, is it possible to live the teachings in our daily life? So that is the main topic today. So if we look at Krishnamurti's teachings, it feels a bit difficult to apply them in daily life, because first of all, these teachings are not to be applied in the sense of that we know, that we may think about applying, but can we leave them? So they are not to be applied like somebody who is going to learn something and then come with that learning and apply it. That is not what happens with this kind of teachings. It is something that we understand, and that understanding becomes alive and it becomes part of our life. So because it goes deeply into our own being, it reflects in our daily life. So in that sense, I feel the teachings only make sense if that happens. If we allow them to go deep in ourselves and let them show through in our daily activities. Otherwise, it becomes an intellectualized learning, which for the purpose of Krishnamurti's teachings, it has no validity at all for this kind of teachings that he is giving. So one important thing about the teachings that Krishnamurti made very clear is, he says that the teachings are a mirror in which we can look at ourselves. So when we look at the mirror, what do we see in the mirror? When we, in our room, in our bathroom, when we look at the mirror, we see our own selves. So when we look at Krishnamurti teachings, he's asking us to do the same. Not to look at Krishnamurti, not to look at the teachings as something separate from ourselves, like I am here and there are the teachings and I am going to learn. So he's asking something completely different from that. He's saying, look in the mirror, which is the teaching itself. So the kind of mind that is needed to listen to the teachings and look at them as we look into a mirror is not the kind of mind that we have been using to look at spiritual teachings, because most of us come from other spiritual backgrounds or religious backgrounds, better saying. And our attitude has been through the centuries that we listen to the teacher and try to apply. For instance, when this whole idea of becoming better than what we are, or of changing what we are. So this whole idea is very deep rooted in us. So we are looking for some advice. So like, okay, what I am is not okay. So what shall I do to better this and change into what I should be then? So that is the attitude that we have when we look at religious teachings. So we are trying to mold ourselves into those teachings. But Krishnamurti, he's saying something completely different from that. He's saying, don't do this, stop this, because this is not helping, it has not helped, and it won't help. You have to look at yourself and be with what you are. Don't try to change it. Don't try to become different from what you are. You have to become aware of what you are, and you can do that by looking, by watching, by observing. So, but without the intention of changing it, or without the intention of judging also, in the sense saying, oh, this is not good. Because when we say this is not good, immediately, we say that because we have an idea of what is then good, no? Then it should be something else, because this is not really good. So to come to this point where we can look at the teachings and see ourselves reflected in them, and don't try to understand the teachings so much, but try to understand our own self, using the teachings as a tool for that. So that the whole idea of listening to Krishnamurti and understanding something is not about understanding the teachings. That he made very clear in many, many talks. Just this week, a friend of mine sent me some small cut of a video of Krishnamurti, in which he says, the speaker has no message. The message is you. So this is something very interesting if we look at it, because this means there is not really a Krishnamurti teaching as such. The whole thing is about the way we look at it. Because if we look at other teachers, let's say Jesus Christ, and we say Jesus had a message, but the message that is spread nowadays about Christianity and the way Christians behave and all that, and have been behaving through the centuries, that is what we call Christianity. So it is about the way we take these teachings, the way we look at them, the way we, let's say, use is not a good word, but the way we relate with them is what is going to make them at the end of the day. So the way we relate with these teachings is very important, because this is the way in future people are going to look at Krishnamurti. Because it is very common when we meet some people who say I am a Christian, or I am a Hindu, or whatever they say, and the moment they say that, what we apprehend from that person, we think all Christians are like this, so this is Christianity, this is how Christians behave. So the important thing is that we should really make an effort to really look at the teachings as we look to a mirror, and not with the idea of trying to understand the teachings or to understand Krishnamurti, because that may not be, to understand Krishnamurti, I don't know if that is possible at all, but to understand ourselves, maybe. So there is another thing that he also says. I saw this week, I was watching a video. There is a series of talks that he gave in Sanen in 1978, and they are really good. There are seven talks and then 5 discussions, public discussions. But in the 5th talk, he says something very interesting. He's talking about order. And he said, what creates disorder in the world is to approach life through a narrow center, which is this me. And he says, if you say I'm a Buddhist, or I'm a Hindu, or I'm a Christian, you are creating disorder. That is disorder. And then he goes further explaining into this. And then he says, therefore, don't create Krishnamurti groups. So this is something that, what does that mean? I don't know. I'm not trying to explain what Krishnamurti is talking. That is very dangerous. But to me, it seems that he's saying, don't create a Krishnamurtianism. You know, don't become a Krishnamurtian. Don't create this narrow way of looking at things through the lenses of what Krishnamurti says. So, and many times he says, don't repeat what I say also. Because basically that is what we have been doing with other teachers. Because we don't understand, we just repeat what they say and think that has a tremendous value. It has. But if you don't understand, just the words may not have that much value as we may think they have. And there was another, long back I saw a video in which he's talking with, in India, he's having a public, not a public, private discussion with some people. And in that there was a Buddhist person, and this Buddhist was trying to explain the Buddhist teachings and comparing them with him. And he says, you know, there is Buddhism because people did not understand what Buddha said. So it seems that the whole focus of Krishnamurti teaching is really the daily life that we live. It is not out of that. It is not something to be applied or to be you know, to develop techniques of any such thing. First of all, he himself was not very in favor of techniques because he sees the danger of the whole thing. So and it is also not to create jargons of Krishnamurti, because that was also something that he really talked a lot about, the danger of that also. But it seems that when we don't understand what any teacher is saying and we repeat that, soon we create jargons with what they say. So and that becomes dangerous, not only for us, but also for the people who may come across the teachings, and when we turn them into something that cannot be applied in daily life or cannot be lived in daily life, better saying, but only talked about, then slowly it loses vitality. But if some of us or many of us can live the teachings, and by living the teachings means be deeply interested in our own selves, in looking at our own selves, which is not an easy thing because we have been running from it for so long. We have been avoiding this tremendously, and we are very afraid of what we are going to see. So to my understanding, the whole teaching is valuable only if we look at it with this intention, not to change people, not to change the world, not to change anybody, not even to change ourselves, but to understand ourselves, to understand what goes on, and to understand what is happening, and understand that running from whatever we are does not help and does not change it. By running, I also mean trying to change it, because trying to change what we are is also running from it. So because we cannot face it, we try to change it. Because we cannot understand it, because we cannot be with it, we try to change it. And that is also running. Because be with whatever is not an easy thing. Sometimes it is very, it's besides being frightening, it is also shocking. You know, that the reality to face what we are sometimes is also shocking. And to be with this kind of feeling and with this kind of realization, sometimes it can be painful, and sometimes it can be even a bit maddening. So to have the strength to look at all this that we have been running from for so long is really not an easy thing. And the moment we start to look at ourselves, we understand that it is not easy. And at that moment, we also stop hoping and expecting others to change, because we understand the difficulties that are implied in this whole thing. And another thing that that he says in one of this talks that I have been watching from Sani, 1978, in the beginning of the second talk, he says, he asks a question. He says, and if you are very serious, how far are you willing to go? This is also a very important question, because how far are we really willing to go? Are we really willing to face ourselves? Are we really willing to drop our attachments, to drop our conclusions, our beliefs? Are we really willing to do that, or are we just playing with words and but at the end of the day we justify our belief, we justify our way of life by saying this has been like that, the same old justifications that we very well know. So how deep, how far are we really willing to go? So he asked this question at the beginning of his talk. And I felt this is a very striking question, because most of the time we are not aware of how far we have to go in order to really understand ourselves, in order to really see what is. We easily repeat this: see what is, be with what is. But what is this what is? What is what is really happening in us? You know, all the things that come: anger, greed, envy, the feeling of being um, of being of injustice, that somebody did that we have been not valued the way we should have been. So this kind of feelings come and we justify them. So to not justify them, just be with them and see that this is happening, it is there, and be with it. Not even say, is it right, is it wrong, is it real, somebody really did not give me the value that I should have been given. So there is, and this sense of injustice is something that is very, very common even. There is a story about Ramana Maharshi. He had a very faithful disciple, and he was with him for many, many, many years. And at some point, this person turned around completely, and he put a case and he tried to take the ashram from Ramana, and he created lots of problems. But before he created all these problems, he was very, very close to Ramana. So this kind of things do not come at once suddenly. They start boiling slowly, heating up slowly, slowly, slowly. And if we don't identify these things, if we don't see them when the beginning, and we don't realize, and we don't try to justify saying, no, I'm right, that this is really should not be. We just be with that feeling. Then it can take proportions that after some time, it becomes very difficult. So to be aware of every single thought, every single feeling that comes, be aware, not say is good or bad, just know this is happening, it is there, and let it be. Don't feed it with more thinking, with more thought. So my feeling is that Krishnamurti's teachings are something of very, very important value, especially for nowadays when everything has become difficult because we have so much knowledge and we don't really know what to do with it. Because knowledge itself is a problem when our mind is not clear, because then we use knowledge in the wrong way. And it is that's that story that when you are digging a hole in the wrong place, the damage can be, and the faster you dig, the quicker the damage will happen. So all this technology that we have developed and we don't know how to use it, in fact, we are using it to self-destruction. This is very clear. There is no point in talking about it anymore because it has become very clear. And we are doing that because of lack of self-knowledge. Because we are not clear, and self-knowledge is the thing that creates clarity in us. So to look at ourselves, and when I look at Krishnamurti speaking, and when he is so kind of energetic and so passionate about showing us and waking us up to the need, to the urgency of seeing what we are doing, seeing what we are, look at ourselves. So lately I have come across many of videos where he insists in saying there is no speaker. So, this was quite later on. I think in the 70s, 80s, he started saying this. When he's saying there is no speaker at all, there is only you looking at the mirror. So I feel, to me at least, it is very important to understand the value of the teachings and to look at them as a tool and not as something like we should not make the same mistake as we have been making with every other teaching that we have been given through the centuries, that we made them into something to be applied, into something to be know the quote, the slokas and all these things. And we should really, because also Krishnamurti is very clear in saying this, that we should look at ourselves, that the whole thing is within us. It is not outside, it is not in a teaching, it is not in a teacher, it is within us. And it is only by looking within, which means this within, it took me quite a long time to understand that within means our own psyche. The way our own psyche works, the way our own mind works. So to look within, to turn within, because right now we are outside projected, means we go with these ideas of applying and changing things outside, changing people, changing the world, or even changing ourselves is the same thing. So we are outside projected. So to turn within, to change the direction in which we have been going. So in that, the teachings are very clear, and in that the teachings are really a game changer. If we can do this, if we can turn within and not so much give importance to words and glorify Krishnamurti or glorify the teachings, because this is also what we have been doing through the centuries. We make it as we glorify the person, or we glorify the teachings, and then we become Christians or Buddhists or something. And if somebody says something like, I don't like Christians and I consider myself to be a Christian, I feel hurt and all that. So we should not do the same mistake again, because I also feel we don't have that much time anymore, because the way we are destroying everything, it does not look like it is going to, unless we change and unless a real turn happens. So with this, I think I leave it to Mr. Dubey now, and we can share some.
Thank you, Clemice. Thanks a lot. I think you have put it in a very precise and clear way as to what the teachings are and how to approach them. uh, you know, to really know the teachings, one has to clear lots of things. You have to clutter our mind from so many things that we have collected over millennia. But problem with us that we want to have everything that we have, and without sacrificing anything, we want to understand Krishnamurti. That creates problems. That is not a easy thing to do. I remember Krishnaji is talking to teachers in Rajghat, where he said, when he talked about education, the kind of education he wants to impart in his schools, he said, sir, are you ready to give your life for it? That is the commitment he wanted. And you said it very nicely that I have my anger, my ambition, jealousy, everything. That is what is for me. That is the place I have to start with, not denouncing it. So that is very, very important. And I think intellectual understanding is very easy. That is what we, most of us do in our talks or dialogues and all that. But deep down, the moment you see that something is coming as a flash, there is a change in us. It's a byproduct of that deep understanding. So it's not effort or anything that is needed. But as we have mentioned earlier also that there's lots of preparation for getting deeper into Krishna's teachings. You know, in traditional religion in India, there are saints like you talked about Ramana Maharshi who had the capacity to go deep inside their own mind. So that is what is needed to understand Krishnamurti. And I remember in Awakening of Intelligence, where there is a mention of a talk Krishna had with Swami Venkateshananda of Ramakrishna Mission, where he says that you are a guru and a guru is one who dispels darkness to show the door and all that. He said, no, sir, nobody can give that to you. You are the door. The door is not separate from you. You also said the same thing. So I think very well said, Clemice. Thanks a lot. I'll welcome other people talking about it. I think Harshad Bhai has already raised his hand. Yes, sir. Unmute. Unmute yourself, Harshad Bhai.
Yes. Are you able to hear?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Dubeji and Clemis. Both of you have said very clearly, and everything I agree with, and I can see the importance of what you have said. Um, I like to say that we cannot study Krishnamurti just like we study chemistry or physics, because in studying these subjects like history or chemistry, we are using our mind, and that mind is the subject, and the history, geography, that is the object. So there is a division between subject and object. But when we study ourselves or Krishnamurti's teachings, there is no such division, because we are trying to understand ourselves. So the subject and the object both are one. And that's why Krishnaji says the observer and the observed, they are not separate in looking at ourselves. And Krishnamurti, when he was coming to Rishi Valley, he used to tell even little children, how do you look at that tree, or how do you look at the face of your friend? Or to teachers, he would say, how do you look at your face of your wife or husband? So he was trying to say that there is a different way of looking, even the outward objects, and there is a different way of looking inward. Um, because we study so much, gather so much knowledge, and then our looking at the objects like tree or the faces of people is not very fresh, not very clear, but through the images which we have gathered. And so there is a block uh, from seeing clearly. And similarly, looking at ourselves also, we have so many conditioning like a Hindu or Indian. And I too had such feelings when I was in America. But through Krishnamurti's teachings, I could begin to see clearly that these are just the labels which we have acquired. And psychologically, we are not different from the rest of humanity. We all suffer, go through these problems. And then how do we look? And that is the key, because if we get the knowledge of Krishnamurti teachings and then apply that knowledge, it doesn't work. But while reading or listening, something may strike. So it depends on how do we read or how do we listen. So Krishnamurti talked a lot also about the art of looking and listening and learning, and about awareness, which is not a part of thinking. So there is a different kind of state within us which is blocked because of too much thinking and feelings. But when this awareness or intelligence is awakened, we can see very clearly how anger arises or fear arises within us at the time it arises. So this requires an ongoing, effortless awareness to see ourselves as we are. And because this awareness is not awakened, Krishnamurti's teachings become very confusing to most people, and they find it very, very difficult. And sometimes they find it very contradictory. And I remember one person who was listening to a Krishnamurti's talk in Ohio in 1970s, and he found in every sentence of Krishnamurti there is a contradiction. But the contradiction I felt was within him and not in what Krishnamurti was saying. So within us, we have lots of blocks. And when we are really very curious and passionate and can have the energy to look at ourselves, and that itself requires the freedom to look. And that is why Krishnamurti sometimes says, freedom is at the beginning, not at the end. So all these difficulties exist in understanding Krishnamurti because of lot of our way of reading, listening is quite different than what Krishnamurti demands. So, okay, I have said enough thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. Thanks a lot. I think Mr. Pradeep Prakash has asked a question which is in the chat box. He says, what's your reflection about famous JK saying, why don't you change? Pradeep ji, I'll partly answer and then leave it to Clemice to give her understanding of this. In many of the talks that Krishji gave, he would point out the problems that human beings are faced with. You know, if I'm an Indian, I have that national feeling, the problem that I face. If I'm religious, the problems I face, and so on in my daily life. If I have a view and I am too attached to it, the problem I face in my relationship. And pointing out all this, then he says, when you see all this, then why don't you change? Why don't you see this? This is what he meant when he said, why don't you change? And in the last days, if you listen to his talks, he would say, sir, your house is on fire. What are you looking at? Do something about it. So that is what he was pointing out, that even though we are suffering, all of us, the whole humanity, why not one of us or many of us can see this directly, have the direct perception of the reality, and that will bring about the change. Clemice can say something and then we'll go to Prasad, sir. Yes, Clemice.
Yeah, this question, why don't you change? He asked this very, very intensely. And my feeling is the difficulty in changing is because we are not aware of what we are. Because if you want to change something, first you have to know what that you have to know about that something. And if you don't know anything about that, how can that change? You know, it is completely in the dark, and you don't allow it to come to the surface for it to be looked at. So how can it change? It cannot. Anything that you work with that you give attention, that changes. But if you don't give any attention to any of these things, like when you are angry, immediately you say, no, I should not be angry. This is not a good feeling. This should not be there. And you try to calm down and find many ways. And if it is a real deep anger, you try to do something else. You go for that. All this is okay, but you don't allow to look at this anger, to be with it. And so how is this going to change? So everything boils down to the same thing. We don't allow we are not willing to look of any of these things. We are scared, and most importantly, religion has told us, you should not be angry. You should not be like this. You should not be like that. You should be different. And so we are trying to fulfill this kind of requirements that have been put in front of us. And with that, we are running from what really is. And in that running, we create a lot of pain and all the kind of things that we can see. So basically, we don't change because we are not willing to look.
Thank you, Clemice. Prasad Garu, please unmute yourself.
Sir, Madam has given a very earnest representation of case style. One can see that she is a very earnest seeker. But I have a slightly different point of view in the sense that she said, I mean, Krishnaji has no message. I think that is what she said. But I find so many positive statements made by K in the course of his lectures and videos, etc. So many. It is as good as a code. We can say Krishnamurti code. Like we can, all of us know all of them. Like freedom is at the beginning. That is what Harshadji has said. What does he mean by freedom is at the beginning? For me, it means forget your inheritance, spiritual inheritance. Like, so long as, I mean, you examine that statement that the so-called God, according to our God, is an invention of the brain. We are not prepared, of course, to leave our conditioning, because that is our religious conditioning. You are born a Christian and you have your condition. For me, he has doubted the very existence, historical authenticity of Christ. It is a kind of popular belief that somebody like by the name of Christ existed. He said all these things. He performed these miracles and all that. Krishnamurti doubted that, I think. We are not prepared to doubt that. Or anything. So many, from small things to big things. Like, so many times he said, why are you not able to see, sensitive? Why are you not sensitive? You are not sensitive because you have indulged. You eat meat, you drink. With all these things, naturally your mind is not sensitive. He talked of the harmony between the body, mind and heart. What else can anybody say? This harmony, for this harmony, first prerequisite is that you must take care of your body. I think somebody said Krishnaji used to take care of his body like a good horseman takes care of his horse. For him, body is the instrument. From that, and he took care of that instrument properly. Of course, it had a lot of wear and tear because of his constant tools and all that. And sir, when he says thought is the past, so many statements, sir, all his, he is the most quotable quote. He has so many quotable quotes, full of them. Every sentence is a quotable quote. Is it not? How do we see into that mirror? You say his teaching is a mirror. Yes, we say his teaching is only a mirror. And he also said, break the mirror once you see it. But how do we see the mirror, see into that mirror? Means every statement has to be observed, has to be tested for yourself on yourself. And if he says you are the world, how do we understand that? You have to see whether the other man's psychology is the same as your psychology. All these things, you let life and death go together. You are keeping death at a distance. What else is it? What else do we want? He has a positive code. All your attachments, your greed, everything. So, thought is the past. Don't follow anybody, however great he is supposed to be. And yesterday I was reading something where he said, a saint is a saint only if society accepts him as a saint, which means he has to conform to social sanctions. That type of sainthood, Krishnaji discounted. You have to be free from the beginning and in the middle and at the end. So, freedom is, don't create a K group. Yes, that is because he has seen all these cults and sects, etc. The enormous wealth of the gurus, he said so many times. What else? He has said so many positive things. His negation also is a positive thing. When he negates everything to define love, yes, we mistake love, all our attachments, we think they are all love. And he has opened our eyes to this type of wrong approach towards love. What is love? We have no care, but we say we love everybody. So, sir, he says, happy is the man who is nothing. Happy is the man who is nothing. It's a different approach to life. I think today Rakesh Jhunjhunwala is dead. His approach was different, I suppose. I don't want to mention names like that, but limitations of knowledge, limitation of thought, and when he says there is no speaker, he has negated his self. He has no self, so there is no speaker. And he says, self is, when the self is not, the other is. Or when the self is there, the other is not. All these statements, sir, they have positive significance. And the only way for us to use him as a mirror is to test these statements on ourselves. Okay, sir, thank you. I don't want to.
Thank you, Prasad, sir. Thank you.
May I just say something?
Yes, please.
See, when I said he has no message, it is not, I am not saying that. Krishnamurti himself says, the speaker has no message. The message is you. That's what he said. He said the message is you. So that means the way you look at the teachings, the way if you leave the teachings, or if you don't leave the teachings. So, and if you quote Krishnamurti without looking at yourself and understanding yourself and thinking that the whole business is to understand Krishnamurti, then you will be giving the wrong message. But still you are the message. So he says, the speaker has no message, the message is you. So the focus is not in Krishnamurti, he is not putting the focus on himself, he's putting the focus on each one of us. So that is what he's saying. So the focus is on us. And that is a difficult thing to accept because we don't like very much that because we don't like to look at us. We like to continue thinking that Krishnamurti was great and I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying that's how we like to look at this. Because we also say Christ is great, and what we did with his teachings is amazing. And with every teacher, we did the same. Because we say they are great, they are great, they are great. And what about us? So we are looking, we have the focus in the wrong place. So we are like that man, that there is a story of that there was this man who lost something somewhere. And he was looking for whatever he lost in a spot where there was light. And somebody said, oh, what did you lost? And he said, no, can I help you to search? And he said, no, I did not lose it here. I lose it there in that corner, but there is no light there. So I search it here where there is light. So he's not going to find anything because he's looking in the wrong place. So that is the same thing. We look in the wrong place. When we aggrandize somebody and say he's great, he's great, he's great. And we are not looking into our own self. So that is what. Okay.
Thank you, Clemice. Thank you. Before I take questions from Dinesh ji and Anand ji, Mr. Sravanan has raised a point in his chat box. Would you like to ask that question yourself, sir? Mr. Sravanan? I think he is not there. So Dinesh ji, yes. Mr. Dinesh Waghmare.
Are you able to listen to me, sir?
Yes.
Today's topic is teachings in daily life. JK's teachings in daily life. I would just like to say, or I would just like to express my views and my understanding. JK said that you should be very observant, passively, if possible, or choicelessly aware about your all transactions in the daily life. Transaction here I mean by is whenever I discuss or whenever I do anything or whenever I act on anything, I mean by that. Suppose I am seeing a tree. How do I see a tree? How many, whether thought is interfering or not. So I have to not only aware about the tree, but also I have to aware about my transactions of thought or interference of the thought. That I have to see. When we talk of, then comes the relationship. Whenever I go in relationship with anybody at any time, what thought I am processing? First of all, I would have to look at my intellectual aspect. What are my intentions? Why I am trying to speak in this way? What I want to express? Why I am going in that relationship? How I am going in that relationship? Am I aware about my all intellectual intentions and my views and my any image if there? Am I aware about that? This is intellectual aspect. Then suppose I make any statement or I go for any transaction with anybody, or I want to express my views. What are my intentions? And along with that intentions or along with my statement, what energy of feelings and emotions I am processing? Am I angry when I'm making a statement? I think it is the right statement from my point of view. Am I processing an energy of anger along with it? Am I processing energy of aggression along with it? Or what sort of energy I am processing along with it? Am I feeling an energy of inferiority complex or an energy of say what exactly is happening in me? Am I aware about that? So I have to see whether the feeling going along with the thought, intellectual thought, is it okay? Is it aligned with that? It has got coherence with that intellectual statement? Or what sort of energy I am processing? Similarly, I have to see what are the emotions emerging. Are any fear is emerging or any other sort of energies appearing? And if it is appearing, so am I choicelessly aware about it? Am I aware about it? If I'm able to tackle it in the same moment or see it in the same moment, my observation is it changes. The change happens instantaneously. JK said very clearly, perception is action. 3 statements he has given. Perception is action. No reaction is revolution. And third is no action is transformation. So at least when I perceive anything, is there any reactions I am processing or any response I am giving? What sort of response it is? Am I aware about it? What I feel, if we can or one can aware about it, then a change takes place. So, and prior to that, prior to all this thing, one has to be aware moment to moment. Means he should also have the initial preparation about, he should have already worked in under the category of self-knowing. What sort of anger is, what is the anger energy? What is the fear energy? He should already have meditated on it, or he should have worked on it. Then only in the particular moment he should be in a position to remain aware about it. So all these things one has to see in his daily life, and my understanding is that's what he means by the mirror in daily life. Means whenever you are saying where are you undergoing in any transaction with anybody or in a relationship, are you aware about all these things happening in you? So if you can be present with the transaction as well as with yourself and see yourself what is happening, I think there can be the changes takes place. Thank you.
Yes, Anandji, please.
Yes, sir. I like your talk, Clemice. It was nice. And these are some of my observations, what others have also commented upon. Like language is a barrier in communication. I need to understand that. We use words. Sometimes a word has got 275 different meanings. How do I understand that is the question. And when I say I want to understand K, or this is what K said, he did not say, and he himself said, you can never understand me. Then why are we trying to understand him? I don't understand. Is it about you or about him? Is what one has to look into it. One has to be seriously try and look into oneself instead of trying to understand someone else. And he kept on repeatedly saying that. So even when he says he acts as a mirror, it's extremely challenging to understand what it means. I can give you some small example, like when I'm happy, and I also find everything out there is also, it's nice. Somebody talks to me, I talk to him with a smile. If I'm not, then, it's something else. So can I observe that is a question? He is, and when I say positive and negative are two different sides of the same thing. I'm back to my conditioning when I say everything he said is positive. Why am I saying that? I really don't understand whether it is positive or negative. There are quite a few, what I see is to understand anything, it's nothing to do with K, to understand anything, to understand life, I need to see what I am. I'm a insensitive human being. How can I understand anything? It is very essential for me to look at that. When there's an understanding of it, I don't know what happened, but I don't know what it is then. But can I observe that I'm an insensitive human being? It is very essential to know what life is. All my actions, what are taking place. I justify and rationalize every action of mine. I say what I'm doing is nothing wrong with it. Then why are we having so many problems? And Krishnamurti also once, a question was put to, someone told Osho that Krishnamurti says, observe is the observed. What is it, sir? He says, I see the wall, and he says, I become the wall. Krishnamurti did not say that, sir. When Krishnamurti, one place he says, thank God I don't become the tree. When I look at the tree, I don't become the tree. When I look at the tree, the observer is not there. There's only the observation. Neither the tree nor the me. me or that. There's no image. There's only the observation. That's all there is. So we see how we interpret someone who's talking, all the time, according to my own understanding, according to my own capacity, according to my own limitations. Can I observe that is what is very essential. That is about also. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Harshad bhai.
Okay. I like to say that I have met some people and they told me that after reading Krishnamurti, they understood everything, but they could not live that way. And so it created a lot of conflicts in them between what is and what should be. And some of them say that they could not sleep at night because they understand that what Krishnamurti says is correct, but cannot live that way. So there is a danger sometimes. And what Krishnamurti says is very, very difficult for most people to feel like happy is the man who has nothing. And nobody wants to be nothing. Everybody wants some happiness or something. So when they read some kind of quotation like this, happy is the man who has nothing, and to be nothing is very frightful. And that is what prevents people to look at themselves as they are. And because of that fear of silence or fear of freedom, because freedom is very frightening. Actual freedom is when there is no sense of this I or me. There is a silence and everything is, your senses are functioning properly. But it is very difficult and very frightening. So freedom is very frightening for most people. Okay, I finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Harshad bhai. Yes, Durga ji, please go ahead.
Hello. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Sir, I'm audible, no, sir?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Sorry if I don't come on a video. I hope it's okay. Sir, yeah. First of all, I would like to tell Clemice that it's a very nice presentation. Rather, she it's whatever she's undergoing. It's a reflection of her person. How far. That's what I could grasp from whatever she said. The teaching vis-a-vis our own lives, and it's a very practical, very we can relate to whatever she has shared with us, because we're all there. We're all going through that same stage, maybe somewhere here, somewhere there. And in fact, I would like to congratulate, maybe all our discussions are becoming more and more serious and more intense. And I think we're not speaking so much about K. We are not saying so much about how great he is or how great he is not. And nor we are congratulating ourselves that, we have become something other than what we are. We have passed that stage. And very honestly, very simply, I feel we are all discussing the real message of the teaching. The teaching is, Krishnanji time and again, he says, it's nothing but, it's about your own lives. Understanding your own selves vis-a-vis the world all around you. And in that very understanding comes is answers to whatever your search or whatever you're seeking. I think that is the core message. I think we all are aware of it, but somehow we don't want to. We want to ignore it. We want to bypass it or something like that. And I think even our previous speaker, Mr. Prasad, he has brought so many intense tenets of the teaching. Like happy is the man who is nothing. You're the world is you. Unless and until we understand each and every word behind it, maybe the sentence, the context, as far as we understand that, our understanding or our intelligence is also limited. We just can't, harness some kind of a extraordinary intelligence from somewhere else. At any given point of time, our understanding can be only that much. But and how can we harness the energy? The energy maybe we can harness, by providing, by taking away all the other unessential things from our life and focusing more and more into these aspects. That's how we could harness our energy. I feel so. Unless and until we keep doing that, I think this teaching or understanding ourselves is not going to be possible. It's like how much you're ready to, how much you're prepared or ready to go into it, how much you're passionate about it. I think there comes all those things. And remaining with the questions is what Krishnaji says again and again. There are nobody who can answer your questions. The questions are going to remain with you, and your intensity or your passion, that is going to determine the answers. How honest you are in finding out the answers. Maybe what we lack, why we lack, those are the questions we may need to observe in our own selves. What is it that is preventing us to go all the way? What is it that is taking away our energy and focus? Are we falling into so many other rituals? Or I think that is the area where we really understand the very essential, the core of the things where we have to live with, and what are the unessential things where we can keep separating ourselves from, or keep segregating ourselves from. And by doing that I think we are we get our own energy from there. Otherwise, whatever he said, those required intense passion, intense energy levels to understand them, to grasp them. And I think only the honesty in oneself, the sincerity in oneself, that only determines or dictates how the answer is revealed to oneself. I feel there is no other way. I think he says it's like, walking on the razor's edge, and you have to come completely naked to it. Every thought, every word, everything, you have to see it for itself, and you have to completely keep getting segregating itself, or putting it away. Then only maybe something else starts coming to you. If we don't have that kind of a thing, but whatever it is, the beginning is already been made. That's what maybe we feel happy about that. The very thing that we are discussing, all these very deep and intense tenets of the teaching, that itself shows, we're all doing that. We're very honest about it. Maybe that's what he says. That is maybe the keeping the fire alive, the spark alive. And by very discussions, by listening to each other also, maybe we are making some progress towards something, maybe to better understanding the clarity and all that. So that's what I have to say. And I have to congratulate, sometimes it's good also to congratulate ourselves that, okay, we are not that bad. We are doing some progress, because we don't know what the end he meant, and where we are going to go and all. We don't know the beginning, the journey that matters. Maybe the destination, we don't even know when we arrive, or what, or if at all there is any destination at all. So I think remaining with these eternal questions and exploring them and going into them, I think that that's how the whole thing starts getting rolled on, and it's all the journey. That's what it counts at the end of the day. Thank you, sir, for this opportunity, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Pradeep Verma, please.
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, audible. Okay. I have the same basic questions. Whether we can ever see a real what is with a limited instrument of knowledge is our senses. Technically, scientifically, they are limited, having receptive to certain vibrations, certain wavelengths. You just said, what is me? What is me? And me is always in relationship with life in general, including people, nature, and everything around me. We can as well use a different word for change as understanding. That's a different thing, that's yet another word. So that remains a thing, whether technically, scientifically, how we are equipped, unless until we imagine something super sensitive or something beyond what we know. And then Harshadji said, for all this, what is required is freedom. How to be free in a highly connected world, physically and physiologically, how to be free. You see, we imagine that of course, we can use a word awareness, which is impersonal. You see how much of it is there. When it works, that is part of our conditioning. It's not that it doesn't work. Awareness is there, but it comes something like insight. Intellect is working, and then suddenly one insight, and then again we go back to intellect, and suddenly some awareness, some insight. These things happen in a very dynamic way. So whether one can be free, technically, intellectually, I understand that freedom is required, freedom from the known, and everything to see, to rather attend to the present moment, anytime. It is beautifully, I can understand it actually, but what is present, how much of it is present, and all these questions remain there. That's why we have been discussing these issues for so many years. And today is yet another day when we are discussing freedom. Just on 14th of August, a different freedom is waiting for a celebration tomorrow. So like that, of course, it is easy linguistically to make one understand these things, but can we be free? That is, can we be free in this interconnected, highly interconnected? And I can feel it that I am connected to the whole, absolutely connected. From all sides, the whole world pervades through me. So this is something. And then, although Vedantists have given a different name, Maya, to that, entire thing is packed and goes out. This is Maya and all that. But the thing remains there only. Thank you very much for giving me time, sir. Thank you so much.
May I just say something?
Yes, please.
See, this whole idea that I am connected to the world. As long as I feel I am connected to the world, that's just an idea. Because when that connection happens, there is no me or the world. It's a different feel. As long as I feel that I am connected, that already is division. So the real perception brings we cannot imagine that. It has to happen. And I feel most of us are waiting for something to happen. We have to drop even this.
Yes, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Dinesh Waghmare. Yeah.
Sir, my observation is Krishnamurti's teachings are Krishnamurti's life. So, my question to Harshad sir, teachings in daily life. So, do we have to live Krishnamurti's life in our life? It is very clear that we don't have to live Krishnamurti's life in our life. We have to live our life. So, Harshad sir, my question is freedom important, or you said nothingness? Nothingness is important? Because
Well,
Krishnamurti himself said that flower, if it's a rose flower, it will blossom like a rose flower.
Yeah.
So, what is significant? Freedom or nothingness?
No, when the self is not, there is real love and beauty. So that nothingness contains everything. So that feeling, if we get that there is no I, no me, there is just senses functioning properly, then we see everything very clear. And this knowledge which we have acquired of the teachings, it doesn't interfere in. So ultimately, what we call Krishnamurti's teachings are about looking at ourselves very clearly and being free from all so many words and ideas and quotations and everything, and just look, not through the knowledge, not through the teachings, but exactly whether we are looking at a tree or a human being, without this sense of I or me coming in between. So that is what I consider, that nothingness is the real freedom, and that freedom is very frightening, because we want to become somebody or we want to achieve something. So that is really preventing the real freedom or nothingness. Okay, I have finished.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Harnath, please unmute yourself. Mr. Harnath. Unmute. Yes.
So am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So first of all, I would like to tell I'm very happy to share the platform with all you people. And I have asked the question in the chat box, like, aren't we feel like aren't we conditioned for JK teachings? Are we limiting ourselves for the teachings? Can we go forward every to find out something new than the teachings? Because what I felt is everybody has the knowledge about his teachings, everybody can talk about the awareness, consciousness, and everything lies in you. I heard about these all things we all know already, right? And what we know apart from the teachings is matters, right? So what I would like to try to tell here is, like, when you know everything, you will become automatically a silent person, and we can only communicate in terms of your self reliance, in the terms of your self knowledge. When everything knows everything, when everyone knows everything, then why we are here? Like, that was my one question. And if everything lies in you, then why what is the purpose of the outer world? And if you are an independent person, I I completely don't agree with that thing, like I'm an independent, because everybody is dependent. Right now we are depending on his teachings. Right now we are depending on the outer world. It is not like that we are independent. We are depending on certain things. That is the tendency of every human brain. The certain tendencies has there for every human brain. It always seeks. That is the major tendency for human brain, is it always seeks. It always search for things. We can't avoid that tendency, right? That is an instinct. That is an inbuilt tendency for a human brain, is to search for the things. What you are trying to tell is to search for the inner. But what I'm trying to tell is, without understanding the outer, how will you search for the inner? You can't, right? You can only understand the inner depending on the outer. Without outer, you can't even search for the inner thing. When you understand that the outer is and the inner is same, you will become totally silent. So what I'm trying to tell here is, the human brain has a tendency to depend on certain things. We can't avoid that. We can't negate, it is not. It is an independent thing. Everything will be fine by yourself. Everything is there inside you. Of course, for some extent, I agree for that. But the thing is, tendency of human nature is, he always search for the outer world, and through that outer world, you will learn that there is an inner. They both are interrelated. They both are interchangeable. They both are interdependable. It is not like that without that outer inner exists. So I would like to conclude like apart from his teachings, I'm very aware of his teachings, but I become completely, one day I realized like, am I conditioned for his teachings, and I become like JK or what else? Then I realized like an insight has come into me, like I'm conditioning for his teachings. So he himself has said, don't condition for my teachings and everything. You have to find out yourself. Then I just that is the thing we have to be aware of. So I would like to ask the people, like, are we find out anything new by ourselves apart from his teachings? That's the question.
May I say something?
Yes, please go ahead.
See, this question of finding out something new, it is only the mind that has no conditionings that can see the new. So if whatever we look through our conditionings. So if we look at Krishnamurti through the conditionings and we are not willing to look at our conditionings, then we will make it into a new conditioning. Of course, we will be conditioned by the jargons that we keep on repeating whatever he says and we think we have understood it. So the problem is not the teachings or whatever. The problem is our own mind. So we can, okay, then we say, I'm becoming conditioned by Krishnamurti's teachings, I drop the teachings. I will be conditioned by something else because I am already have that is the way my mind works. So if I am becoming conditioned by Krishnamurti's teachings, let me look at that and let me understand that this is the way my mind is doing. It is working like that, and it will do that with anything. If I drop this, I will pick up something there and I will do the same, and this will continue. So unless I understand it and use the teachings, I will not use the word use because that doesn't go very well, but if I relate to the teachings as a tool, then the way of looking to the teachings is also different. I am not trying to take something from the teachings. Means this give and take kind of relationship is not there. So the way we look at it is very important. And there is one interesting thing. I have been watching Krishnamurti's videos since 2008. I start then. And I don't know, I think I have seen many of them. I will not say all of them because I think there are many, but I have seen many. And many times I see the same video and it is always new. I never saw the same video again, even though I see the same video in the sense it is the same video, but I always see something completely different that I have not seen before. And even the whole thing to me feels very, very new. So I feel the whole thing depends very much on how you look at things and how you want to look. You see, there is one thing about, there was somebody who was talking before about how can I, these questions, how can I look at the mirror? See, the important thing is that we don't try to, the important thing is that we learn to be with questions, that we don't keep on answering every question immediately. You see, once when I started reading and listening to Krishnamurti, he said something there. There is a small short video when somebody asks him, who are you? And he says, first of all, I am nobody. When he says that I am nobody, that kind of hit me because I said, how can he say I'm nobody? We all know that's not quite like that, you know, that. So what does he mean when he's saying I'm nobody? And that question was with me for long time, years. So to learn to be with questions without trying to immediately answer them, I think that is very important. So when Krishnamurti says, like when he says, the speaker has no message,
Correct.
the message is you. To be with that. If you don't understand it, that's fine. We don't have to understand everything. We don't do anyhow. So just be with any such things. Be with it for long, and don't try to immediately answer everything thinking we have to have an answer, because we don't have. Be this humility of just say I cannot grasp it. That I feel that's also important.
Thank you, Clemice. Mr. Harnath has raised a very important point, and he has also given his own answers. But I just want to add that if you approach the teachings purely with an intellectual mindset, then you're certainly, all of us are going to be conditioned. And unfortunately, that is true for many, many people in the Krishnamurti circle, that we use the same language, quote him often. It only shows how knowledgeable we are about teaching. But approaching Krishnamurti's teachings to find out something new is another mindset. That I want to know something more. I think watch yourself, observe yourself in your relationship in daily life. And let me tell you, sir, with my own experience, you will find something new every moment. It's a treasure trove of knowledge, which Krishna says that know yourself. So I think don't start with a mindset that I have to gain something, know something. Test what he says in our daily life and find out if it is true. He himself says that don't believe every word of what I'm saying. If you find it true in your life, accept it, otherwise reject it. So that is the way one has to approach Krishnamurti's teachings. And that is what we are trying to do here, sharing our understanding in this forum. We'll take the last comment from Anandji now and we'll close. Yes, Anandji, please go ahead.
Yes, there were quite a few. When we talk about K's life or my life or somebody's life, I mean, how do I understand what life is? Is it my life or it's your life or somebody else's life? Can I look at life per se? Life means everything, every living thing and non-living thing. I have to look at that. How can it's extremely challenging, sir. I've been saying this, but then one has to really seriously look at it, what it really means. So when K is also talking this is my interpretation. When K is talking about life, it is life per se, not yours or mine. The moment I and you come, I'm back to my conditioning. I'm back to my knowledge. And it's again back to my memory and things like that. So that is one. And again, Krishnamurti also says, he also says, how can I strip myself of the network of language? Like I earlier said, language is a barrier in communication. So we are using language all the time. We are using words all the time. It is not going to help me. The words, the more I try to understand it and look into the dictionary, it is not going to give me understanding at all. Looking into dictionaries, what the word says is not going to give me, it's not going to help. What someone is trying to communicate and how I am understanding, I need to really look at it. Like, yes, many a times when I read the book for the second time or listen to the talk for the second time, I understand it differently. Now, can I see that when I read Krishnamurti, when I listen to him, I'm acquiring more and more knowledge. And again, the knowledge is being used. I said, well, what I understood earlier was not the right thing. This seems to be the thing. Again, I read, again, the same problem. So you see how we are fallen in the trap, acquiring more and more and more knowledge. Now, it's extremely challenging to seriously look at it. Again, when I say look at it, it's like cases, perception, action. It's again a huge challenge. Now, answers like, all the time we're looking for answers. As somebody was talking about, the brain and, what's happening out there. There's a functional part of it. As always, we are getting caught in the functional and psychological. Gay is talking whenever he talks, it's always about what's happening in the human psyche or in the my psyche or whatever it is. Not functionally, the brain is required. Knowledge is required. I have to go back to my house. I have to drive the car. That knowledge is very essential. Nobody's talking about it. But as always, most of us, we get caught in it. Functional and physical. Psychological. So we have to seriously look into it. Like when we're talking about life per se, it's not my life. Like I always say, my life or somebody's life is a very, very small, petty thing. That's about it also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sir, declare the lecture for the next Sunday.
Yes, next Sunday, please note the change in timing. It will be at 6:30 p.m. Next Sunday, it will be 6:30 p.m. We'll have Mr. Donald Creedon. He's from Ireland. He'll be talking about on negation in Nagarjuna and Krishnamurti. He's a Buddhist scholar. You have heard him earlier also. So he'll be talking to us next Sunday at 6:30 p.m. You're all welcome. Please find time to join. Thank you.
Thank you, Dubeji.
Thank you.
Thanks to every participant. Please close it.